There's a kind of person who walks through life getting called intimidating and never did a single thing to earn it. You probably know one. You might be one. They're calm, quiet, not taking over the room, not making a scene, barely saying much. And somehow, everyone around them gets tense. Someone talks too fast. Someone laughs at a thing that wasn't a joke. Someone starts explaining a decision nobody asked about. Nobody could tell you why, but there's a real answer, and it starts before that quiet person has said a single word. In fact, it starts in about 1/10 of a second. So let's go through what's actually happening, why calm, quiet people make everyone else nervous without trying, and why that same trait, underneath it all, can leave them feeling completely alone. So why does it happen? It starts with something almost nobody realizes about first impressions. They're already over before they begin.
There's a study out of Princeton by Willis and Todorov where they flashed photos of strangers for a fraction of a second and asked people to judge them. Trustworthy? Aggressive? Likable? People made up their minds in about 1/10 of a second. And here's the unsettling part. Giving them more time to look didn't change the verdict. It just made them more confident about the snap call they'd already made. 1/10 of a second. That's the window. And the quiet ones lose it before they even know it opened. Because most people spend that first moment performing, just a little. A quick smile, a bit of small talk, a signal that says, "I'm friendly, I'm easy, you're safe with me." It's the small social tax most of us pay without thinking. The quiet person doesn't pay it. Not out of arrogance. They just don't perform on cue. And to a nervous system that's quietly scanning every new face for threat, calm and unreadable doesn't land as relaxed. It lands as a question with no answer. And the brain hates a question with no answer. So it fills in the blank itself, usually with something worse than the truth. That's how someone gets called cold before they've said 10 words. Nobody's being cruel. People just couldn't read them, so they invented a version they could. Now here's where it gets strange. The same quiet that makes people call you cold starts making total strangers tell you their secrets. Same trait, opposite effect. Here's why. A coworker someone barely knows ends up talking about her marriage by the coffee machine. Someone at a dinner opens up about their childhood 20 minutes in, then looks half surprised they said it out loud. It happens again and again. And the quiet person isn't even trying. They're barely asking anything. They just listen. They don't jump in to fix it. They don't rush to make it lighter with a joke. They let the other person actually finish a sentence. A psychologist named Carl Rogers had a name for that. He called it unconditional positive regard. Listening to someone without trying to correct them, manage them, or perform back at them. And it's rare enough that when people finally feel it, the truth tends to just fall out of them. You'd think being that person would make you deeply loved. It usually doesn't. And here's the part that quietly wears them down. After someone opens up to them, that person often pulls back, gets awkward, avoids them for a week, sometimes acts like the quiet one did something to them. They didn't. They just saw someone clearly, for a moment, with their guard down. And for a lot of people, being seen that clearly is scarier than being ignored. Ignored, you get to stay hidden. Seen, you have to deal with whatever just came out of you. So the quiet person ends up in a strange place. The one everybody trusts for 20 minutes and then keeps at arm's length. Holding everyone's secrets and somehow getting less close to people, not more.
That's the first hint of why this gets lonely. Keep it in mind. Now picture a meeting, or any group conversation. The quiet person says their piece, and then they stop. They're done. Not sulking, not testing anyone, not waiting to pounce, just finished. And the silence afterward? People can't stand it. Someone jumps in to fill it. Someone over-explains. Someone makes a nervous little joke. There's research on this too, from a team in the Netherlands led by a researcher named Koudenberg. They studied what happens when a conversation hits an unexpected silence, and people started feeling rejected and anxious after only a few seconds of it. A few seconds of nothing. There's an old reason for that. For almost all of human history, being out of sync with your group was dangerous. Going quiet, falling out of rhythm, getting frozen out, that could get you pushed out, and being pushed out could get you killed. So the body still treats a silent gap like a small alarm.
To the quiet person, a pause is just a pause. To everyone else, it's the floor dropping out for a second. So they scramble to fill it. And then, because they were the calm one in a room full of people scrambling, the quiet person gets called the intense one for being comfortable with silence. And there's one more layer, the deepest one. Be honest, how often do you catch things in a room that everyone else seems to miss? The shift in someone's voice, the pause before they answer, the thing nobody's saying out loud. Because people can tell when a quiet person is actually noticing. They catch the laugh that came half a beat too late, the story that changed in the retelling, the two people insisting everything's fine when it clearly isn't. They don't say anything. They'd never use it against anyone. They just see it. And people can feel that they've been seen. Around someone loud, everyone gets to keep their mask on because nobody's really watching. Around someone quiet and genuinely paying attention, the mask starts to feel thin. The quiet person doesn't have to expose anybody. The fact that they noticed is already enough to make people uneasy. Because people will forgive almost anything faster than they'll forgive being understood a little too accurately, a little too early, by someone who never asked permission to see them. So if all of this is just other people's reactions, then why does the quiet person end up feeling like the broken one? That's the part nobody talks about, and it's where this gets heavy. The quiet person goes home and feels a loneliness that's genuinely hard to explain. Because from the outside, their life looks fine. People come to them. People trust them. They're the steady one, the deep one, the one who always seems to have it together. But they're the one who reads everybody, while almost nobody reads them back. They hear everyone's truth and rarely get asked for their own. They spend their days behind a kind of glass, close enough to see everyone clearly, never quite let inside themselves. And somewhere along the line, a lot of these people start believing the labels. That they're too closed off, too serious, too much to be around. So they start apologizing for it, shrinking, trying to perform a warmth that doesn't come naturally, just so people will stop getting nervous around them. If any of this is landing, here's the part I actually want you to hear. That tension other people feel around you was never proof that something's wrong with you. People reading you in a tenth of a second and bracing, that's their threat scan running on autopilot. People scrambling to fill your silence, that's their discomfort with quiet, not your coldness. People getting defensive, confessing, then pulling away, those are things your presence stirred up in them, not things you did wrong.
The people most rattled by a quiet person are usually the ones most addicted to noise, because the noise is how they avoid hearing themselves. And a genuinely present, quiet person turns the noise off. Suddenly they can hear what was already in there. That's uncomfortable for them. It was never yours to fix. Your quiet was never the problem. It's presence. And real presence is rare in a world where so many people are performing just to feel real. You were never too much. You were just unwilling to perform. And that genuinely unsettles people who don't know how to stop. So here's what I'd leave you with. If you saw yourself in any of this, if you spent years being called intense or cold or hard to read, quietly wondering if something's wrong with you, consider that you may have been carrying a tension that was never yours to begin with.
The quiet you've apologized for your whole life might be the one thing about you nobody could fake, or talk you out of, or perform their way into. The exact thing some of the people around you secretly wish they had. Tell me in the comments, which part of this felt the most like your own life? I read them. And if someone came to mind while you were watching, the quiet one everyone leans on and nobody really checks on, send this to them. Sometimes hearing it explained once is enough to put down a weight you didn't know you were carrying. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.